Hello, everyone. For those that don't know me, my name is Rachel Vitullo. I am the global brand artist for 11 Australia. And today we have a very special video for you all. I am so grateful to have the two co-creative directors of 11 Australia, and obviously no stranger to the brand. Today joining me is Joey Scandizzo, multi-award winning hairdresser of the year, and the so famous Andrew O'Toole, award-winning hair fashion photographer, and personally the best hair fashion photographer in my eyes. Joey and Andrew, welcome to today's show.
Hey, Rach.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks for having us.
I see that you're on brand today, Joey.
Yes, I got the new 11 merch jacket. I thought I'd model it off for you guys. Should be dropping pretty soon in your local country, but it is one of the greatest. I've just been for a run, so I use it as my windbreaker as well, and a fashion item.
I have to steal that before that launches. So today we are going to deep dive into Lake Tyrrell, which I am so excited. I think this is one of my most favorite campaigns that 11 Australia have produced. I have a few questions for you guys, but we're going to keep it really light, really fun, like we always do. We are going to jump straight into our first question. Are you guys ready?
Go for it, Rach.
Alrighty. So what was the inspiration behind choosing Lake Tyrrell as the location for this campaign?
I think that was Joey that wanted that.
It was, yeah. Well, I've always known of Lake Tyrrell. I didn't actually know the name of the place when I used to see it, but I used to see these pink lakes, and I used to think, how cool are these lakes? And, this beautiful landscape. You've got beautiful blue skies, and then you had this beautiful pink water. And I was always intrigued about these lakes. And I remember I used to mention it to, Rob and Andy, and I'm like, what is this? And Andrew was pretty intrigued about it. And I used to say, come on, let's go up there, let's go shoot up there. And it was all about timing and finding the right time to shoot up there, and all the stars aligned. Obviously, we'll go a bit more deeper into it, but there's a certain time of the year where you can where the lake turns pink. So we had to sort of time it when all our calendars sort of aligned. And
Which, by the way, Rach, is 2 weeks of the year. So to get everyone ready in 2 weeks of the year, that's when I started to think Scandizzo may be slightly crazy and maybe pull off. But
it's always going on. I'm always looking and thinking, and then it sort of robs the voice of reason who really thinks things through. Where me and Andrew are like, we're doing this, let's go, let's dive straight into it. But then there's a voice of reason in the background. There's people in the background who have to help put this together, and our voice of reason.
Well, I hear that Andrew had a little bit of reservations with jumping into Lake Tyrrell.
To be honest, Rach, any idea of Joey's, I've probably got reservations to start with. It's either dangerous, wrong, we could get shot, we may not come home to see our family. You never know where we'll end up. So as much as I was into the concept of the start, I probably started actually backing out at like a month or two before, going, guys, the location's hard. There's actually at Lake Tyrrell, there's nothing there really. There's a township 20 minutes away, but there's no facilities there. There's actually no toilets there. So even to go to a shoot in the middle of nowhere where there are no bathrooms is obviously logistical problems, because you've got a crew of 20 people.
100%.
Realistically, all the stars have to align for these lakes to turn pink. Like, it has to be a certain time of the year, and even within that, apparently it's the algae that sits on top of the salt that turn pink. So many conditions have to be right. So we were set up with a local producer up there, and she, Rob and I were talking to her for a while, and she basically said, if you come in this 2 weeks of the year, you will be fine. It'll be blue skies. You won't have a problem. It'll be nice and warm, and and she really kind of allayed a lot of my fears, because realistically, Joey, what could go wrong?
In Joey's eyes, nothing.
If someone says the weather's going to be perfect and it's not going to rain, then you've got to believe them.
So I want to talk about your campaign work since launching 11 Australia as a brand. And I think looking at all of our campaigns over the years, the first thing that everybody says when they see it is just, wow, like those locations are unbelievable. Talk to me about when you finally arrived at Lake Tyrrell, how that made you feel. Because I know, like, Joey, obviously you've been wanting to go there for such a long time. Was it like a pinch me moment, you guys finally being there?
We actually arrived there at separate times. I mean, for me, Joey had known about it actually quite a while before me, which is fairly ironic because I grew up in central Victoria, and it's only an hour and a half from where I grew up, and it's not, it's a bit flatter and it's a bit dry, but it's quite similar in some ways. But it wasn't actually on my radar, so driving in was a bit of it's quite a, I don't know, you're kind of driving through, I guess, craggy scrubland, and then you almost enter this beautiful epic basin with these kind of, and they're not, crazy bright colors, these beautiful washes of, turquoise and pinks. Like it's quite a surreal, beautiful moment coming in, and it's really like, I think the experience is soft. Like it's kind of like a wow, this is, and it's all encompassing because it's quite a, you don't see it from the highways of the roads. You literally drive over this set of hills and you land in this beautiful basin. So it's really quite an epic moment arriving there, and quite, I mean, for me, I think I always feel the most connected. I'm not really a spiritual person, but definitely in epic landscapes, and especially Australian landscapes, I feel a really strong connection when you go to those beautiful places and you have that immersion. Like it's really quite amazing.
Yeah, look, for me, like Andrew said, driving there, you're in barren. There's nothing around. You're just looking and going, oh, there's red dirt and there's some trees and scrubs, and you're like, where is this place? We've driven 4 or 5 hours to this place. And then you sort of finally go through all these tracks and these little, these drives, and you sort of see this lake. And when I got there, because you're waiting for this pristine weather, we were told you need, the perfect, blue skies and the perfect time to be there. So we've been working on this for 3 months. So and then we looked at the radar map, and the day we were getting there was rain. They hadn't had rain there for, a month. And the day we roll up, there's meant to be rain. So we rolled up a day before to, scout the location. So when I rolled up, I saw the lake. There wasn't blue skies. So when there's no blue skies, you don't get that bright pink colour. It's more of a murky sort of. So, yeah, it's probably this more pink. And then when the sun comes out, you go to this sort of pink. So you need the blue sky to make that colour. And we didn't have that colour. So I was sort of a bit underdone. I'm like, hang on a sec, the pictures I've seen of this pink, like, this isn't the bright pink I'm thinking of. So when we rolled up there, it was sort of this sort of colour,
It was the semi-pink lakes when we rocked up.
Yeah, and I've just gone, oh shit, this is one of my ideas, and I could have screwed this up. We're all sort of looking around for where's the most pinkest part of this lake where we can shoot. But then she said, look, once the sun comes out, you'll see this change. And she was right. Later that afternoon, the clouds start to sort of break and the rain sort of stopped. And then you see this beautiful pink start to come out of the lake. And then you really start to see it come into form. So for me, first instincts weren't the greatest. I'm like, oh no, we could have screwed this. But like I said, the blue sky comes out, you get this bright pink tone coming through the water, and then it came to life. And the next 2 days while you're there, you really got to see it really come to life. And different parts of the lake, if it was more shallower part, because you think of this lake as it's not a deep lake, it's really shallow, you know what I mean?
Right.
It doesn't really go over a foot, so it's just this long, vast lake, which is shallow water, and parts of it are brighter, parts of it are darker. And I think Andrew captured it. We moved around, we scouted locations, and and some of it was you're shooting in one spot, and a metre away we've got the model, and Andrew's shooting in one spot, and the model's sinking in this, it's like quicksand, so it's salt, but and it's mud, and you sort of, as you're shooting, she's sinking, then I'm going to go and try and touch up here, and I'm sinking, and I'm like, hey, get me out of here. So it looks super pretty and super amazing when you see the photos, but behind the scenes,
logistically,
yeah, there was a lot going on. But it's
Yeah.
not like we've never done this before, because, like Andrew said, we've shot in different locations, different climates. We've been
Yeah.
out in the outback in the desert. We've been out on beaches. We've sort of we've been everywhere. Out in the forests, and I love a challenge, and I know Andrew does as well. There's a bit more work on his side, but I think once you see the end results of these pictures, it's
It makes
worth
it
it.
all
And there's
worth it.
sometimes, yeah, you don't see a lot of these campaigns and people doing these things because they're probably looking and going, this is just too hard basket. So they stay away from it. And us at
Mm,
11, we're a sort of a pretty close knit team, and you can take us out somewhere and we can sort of work together through, because it can get pretty, get pretty hectic out there,
yeah,
and people can turn. So because we're so close, we know each other, when to sort of back off, and when to have a go at each other, and it sort of works. You know what I mean? And
it does.
we've done it so many times, and we know what we're up for.
And obviously, for most brands, you need to control that in the studio environment is the easiest way to get those results. And for us, it's always been the not even the challenge, but it's like, how can we incorporate, I guess, our Australian heritage into doing hair or shooting hair, Joey doing hair and me shooting it. How can we do it kind of bigger and better, and how can we bring that Australianness in? We're not going to do that in the studio, and that's why we've shot in these epic locations like Alice Springs and Byron Bay and Hamilton Island and far north, because that for both Joey and I, we're very connected to Australia, as you know. And it's like, how do we make that part of our brand, but how also can we deliver that to the world in the most beautiful way? So one, it is challenging. Two, it is very exciting. But it's like, you can only really shoot in those locations if you fully understand the capabilities of the crew you're working with, to know that yes, Joey's capable of doing that hair. Yes, he might need 5 assistants because we're literally up a mountain, or next to crocodiles on a boat in Port Douglas. But there's like a massive level of trust to be able to kind of execute it and go, yeah, you know what, it's trust, but it's also backing yourself, going, yeah, we're actually really capable of doing this at this level, and for people to not just go, that's beautiful or amazing, but that looks like an 11 shoot. That's always my goal. Is like, I want people to go, I love it, but also, God, that looks such like an 11 shoot. That's my absolute goal.
Well, for me as well, like I think the really important thing with 11 Australia as a brand is the structure behind it. So for those that don't know, 11 Australia as a brand is built on our 4 pillars. One pillar being our Australian heritage. And exactly like you said, Andrew, it's like finding these locations that are so true to Australian culture and Australian heritage, and really showcasing that not only in the products that perform and in the way that it's shot, but the location that we shoot at too.
I think early on developing the brand, we realized it actually needed to be a big part of, the 11 Australia part, because it is, realistically, it's such a big part of Joey and I's upbringing. Joey's, surfing. He's in nature every weekend, like, and that's, that's been his whole life. And I grew up literally, in the sticks, not far from where we shot, literally surrounded by, some of the most beautiful nature on earth. I've literally got kangaroos outside my window as we speak. So I'm still, I still entrench myself in that kind of essence of like Australian beauty. Like, we really love it, and we really, I don't know, I think really want to not push that onto people, but hope it translates, beautifully overseas, as much as we love living it. Like, it's such an amazing, cool life that we actually get to live here.
Yeah, 100%. So Andy, with that, what role did the natural landscape play in shaping the overall creative direction?
This one was actually tricky because I guess you're in a big, vast landscape. There's nothing else around. Like, it's flat. There's nothing to sit on. There's nothing to lean on. There's no toilets. There's no escape. So it was. I think I got my head around it in terms of going, this is almost like a big stage. It's like it's a setting for something. And we're shooting here. It's like, we're not doing a big fashion production shoot, although we definitely have strong elements of fashion in our shoots. But for me, it was like, use this as a big, beautiful stage of a pink surface and a blue sky or a gray sky, and how do I kind of try and bring that all together in a different way that we haven't really kind of seen before. And also for me, it's like, yes, I love showing Australian landscapes, but also, every campaign for me and Joey is we're also going, how can we make our campaign look different from, we don't want to repeat the same. We don't want to do the same campaign in a different location. We want it to have like a newness and a spark. So, it was, we so it was like having this big beautiful stage, and then I was like, well, we could offset it with these really bright primary colors, because the other colors, the landscapes there's soft and pastel. So I was kind of like, I was like, well, let's try these kind of massive circles. And we built, we trucked up from Melbourne, these big, beautiful shapes. And my assistants were out. I think all the crew was painting these props at one stage. So we painted them on set. So it was really just kind of going, using this, big, vast area as a beautiful backdrop to these kind of geometric shapes. That was the main.
Amazing. So Lake Tyrrell is sacred land. Talk to us about what Lake Tyrrell means.
Yeah, well, Lake Tyrrell's actually the indigenous. I don't know if Joey knew this, but the indigenous name for Lake Tyrrell is actually it's actually Dirrell. Like the indigenous name is Dirrell, and because I was thinking how they must have been like an explorer Tyrrell or whatever. Like a lot of Anglo names are just given to explorers come to. But the indigenous name, and this goes back. It goes back about 35,000 years for that area. So the name is Dirrell. So the name Lake Tyrrell is actually derived from that. And the really cool thing was that the name Dirrell translates to sky. And when you're in the lake, when you're walking in the lake, it actually feels like you're walking in the sky. It's a really beautiful connection. Like it's really cool.
That's amazing.
You can even see in some of the images when you're shooting, and even when you're there, you could see like the lake was like a mirror. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So when you're shooting, you could see everything. It was like you sort of had to be there to see it. It's hard to.
It's quite a surreal experience. It's literally like you're shooting in an optical illusion. So it wasn't until it probably was more significant after the shoot that this the name meaning sky is that wow, we actually felt like we were shooting in the sky. It was the second day we were shooting in this beautiful reflection. It was like the girls were walking the sky. It's a really beautiful little story.
That's unreal. Yeah. I love that. So Joey, on to you, mate.
Yes.
So each look in the campaign shows a different texture. Talk to me about how you approach this.
Yeah, well, I think for us as a brand, it's important to know that we're not just, we're stuck in one corner. As a brand, we need to tap into different hair types. As you know, we're here in Australia and there's different multicultural people and different textures in hair. So it's important
we're
that
not
through
just
this
blondes.
Exactly. So it's important that we showed each different texture in hair and how the products perform in those hairs. So for us, as you can see, there was, you had that beautiful smooth look, and then we had that afro sort of hair, coily hair. Then we had, smoothed it out. So we used different products to create those different looks on the day. And obviously there's different climates there as well. It's pretty humid up there, and there's a bit of rain around, so we had to make sure these products performed. And we went through, some of the products we used was a smoothing our flyaway balm to control some of those flyaways, especially when you're on set. Shine serum, smoothing our shine serum was huge on set, because of the humidity. And then we created some beautiful wet looks using the serum as well. We kept applying that. The smoothing our thermal spray as well was great. Then we had the dry finish wax spray, which was great to give you that texture you're looking for as well, but added hydration as well. So, we used most of the products throughout the whole campaign, but you can see the different looks throughout each image, and it worked. It was important that worked. And they heroed, yeah.
I think for 11 Australia as a brand, I think it's not a lot of people know that we can cater to every kind of hair type. And I think that's really important to showcase in our campaign work and through our education as well. We really do keep in mind that not only Australia, as you were saying, we are really multicultural here. It's not just that beachy blonde hair that everybody sees, but I think it's important to always understand that through product testing and development, we do think about every kind of hair type: coily hair, straight hair, thick hair, fine hair. There's always something for you within the range, which I think is really
Yeah,
cool.
we are. Yeah, and what's most important is we are a global brand now. When we first started out this, we were a local brand here in Australia. We knew our hair textures. Now we're a global brand. We're in over 38 countries. We're in all parts of the continent now. We're in America, we're in parts of Asia, we're in Europe, we're in Africa. So there are so many different hair types out there. So when we're creating products and testing products, we need to make sure that these products perform on every hair type. Like you said, whether it's thick, fine, coily, curly, straight.
Yeah.
We need to tap into every sort of hair type to make sure it's blonde, dark. We are a brand that continues to grow and we continue to evolve, and we need to make sure we cater to everybody.
Exactly. So, Andrew, when you are shooting with 11 Australia, you do keep not only the whole image in your mind, but you do keep hair at the forefront of what you're shooting. So what was it that you were looking for Joey to create to make that a total look?
I think every shoot's differently depending on, I guess, the conditions, and that can be not just the land. That can just be the wind on the day. And for this one, I was, even though you go, yes, at maybe sunny conditions, if you're on location and it's kind of vast, you're probably going to get a bit of wind. And it's one of those things, shooting on location, you can't fight it. You can maybe block it a little bit, but you really have to go with it. So for me on this shoot, it was like really working with natural textures, like, and for me, it's always been, let hair do its thing. Hair is beautiful and organic, and it moves in the winds. Like there's no point in doing these beautiful hairstyles on location and spraying the crap out of it so it doesn't move. Hair moves in sunlight and it gets these beautiful reflex and textures in it. That's why I love shooting hair. I guess the crazy thing on location is you never really know what you're going to get. You never really know the conditions, and that's exciting. And it does. It forces us to think on our feet, because like sometimes we start going, oh, we might do this, and we may end up somewhere else. But that's a nice part of the creative journey as well, as going, you know what, we're really capable of producing good stuff, but shoot on location, you have to work with the elements. But this time for me, especially with Mida, our black model, having, beautiful, natural coily hair and making it, real hair. It's not photoshopped into shape. It's moving in the wind. It's, for me, it was like just that essence of naturalness. And hair just being beautiful hair. That's exactly. That's what I was trying to do. Yeah.
Well, talking about challenges that came our way on that shoot, for those that don't know, due to work commitments that I already had previously leading up to this shoot, I unfortunately couldn't make it to Lake Tyrrell for this unbelievable shoot. And I think you can see in the images that one of our models did have a color change while we were on set. So obviously that was a challenge, me not being on location to change the reflective tone that exists in the hair. So I had to put my trust in Mr. Joey Scandizzo to change that tone at the end of day one.
The big challenge was not having a colorist. So it was either picking me to do the color or Scandizzo to do it.
Well, listen, I think, one thing that we do talk... You did great. You did great. Well, like I think that, like, obviously, Joey, you don't paint hair, obviously, as much as I do. I can call you a colorist now, but I think what is a really nice story to talk about is just how easy 11 Australia color is to use. We met the model here in Melbourne, and we did a beautiful glossing service here in our salon in Melbourne before you guys left to go to Lake Tyrrell. So the formula I did for that beautiful blonde that we saw is 11 Australia's color liquid gloss. I did the 10-2-1, which is the 10 VA, and clear with 2%. So the 2% liquid activator allows the hair to stay on the exact same level that I'm working with. It's just cleaning up the hair that was existing a little bit and giving an absolute incredible shine. Where the challenge came into play was we wanted to create that beautiful pink peachy hue that we all know and love throughout the campaign. So for me, it was figuring out a formula that was essentially foolproof for Joey Scandizzo to paint at the end of day one. So end of day one, what time did you guys wrap? I think it was about 8 o'clock, wasn't it? 8 p.m.? Yeah, it was late.
Yeah, I think the sun.
I
I think the sun went down by about 8:30. We sort of got back to where we were staying. It wasn't, and then don't think we travel and we stay in these 5-star hotels, because we stayed in the local pub in Tyrrell, which would have been about a 2-star hotel, which wasn't too bad. But we all went back to this hotel and we all got our counter meal, chicken parma. We ate dinner, and then I thought it was time for bed, and then I remembered I had to do a hair colour, which was at about 10 p.m. So 10 p.m. came.
That's the thing, right? So I get a FaceTime call from Joey, and I think it was around 9:45, quarter to 10, and it was a FaceTime call from Joey, and I saw he had the scales out, and he had his gloves out, and his bowl, and his brushes, and I was actually walking him through the measuring, because to create this beautiful pink hue, for me, it was quite a cocktail of color. I'll give you the formula first, and then I can walk you through the application that Joey and I did. So the formula for that peach color was, once again, 11 Australia's color demi liquid, the 1035, the 10 GM, the 943, which is the 9 CG, that copper gold, and then a pin of the 6.66, the 6 red intensive, with 4% cream activator. So I went in with the 4% cream activator versus the 2% liquid activator to intensify the pink hue, because Andy, you also know, sometimes things can look pink or peach in real life, and then when you go to shoot it, it almost doesn't exist. So we wanted to make sure that the color was there enough for it to showcase, but not take over everything that we've done. So when I say a pin of the 6RR, the 666, for those that don't know, that is our red intensifier. So that is our most vibrant red color in our liquids that we offer. And so as I was watching Joey measure in the 1035 and the 943, you know, which is kind of safe zone, I was watching him drop in the 6 red intensive, being like, now focus, Joey. It's just the tiniest little pin of this, because it can go so far the other way if you put too much. And you know what? Like I said, I will give you credit, Joey. It was an absolute flawless application. And absolutely, you followed my method to a T. And just to, you know, hone back in on the fact that 11 Australia colour is quite easy to understand. And for those that don't even colour, can create beautiful work. Let's talk about the photography and the aesthetic of the overall look. So, Andrew, it was really important to shoot at sunrise and sunset. So how did this impact the visual storytelling of Lake Tyrrell?
I think the beautiful thing about, you know, shooting at sunrise, sunset is you get side, you know, you get lower side light. You know, I guess the massive difference is, you know, afternoon light in Australia can be really gold. You know, and to be honest, you know, shooting on location, yeah, definitely golden hour. You know, but you know, Australia can be, it's a tricky place to shoot on location, because realistically after 10 a.m. in the morning, the sun gets, you know, very high, and it's very contrasting in Australia. You know, we don't have, I guess, you know, in lots of parts of Europe and Asia, there's a lot more particles in the air or smoke in the air. Where Australia often, you know, certainly you get to outback areas, and the air is very, very clean, and the light is really, really harsh. So after a certain time of day, it becomes really tricky to shoot, which is realistically why we shoot, you know, sunrise and sunset. It also gives us, you know, shooting for sunset is great, because then we have generally all afternoon to prep. So we might start, I think we started prepping it. We got there at midday and prepped till, I guess, 3 in the afternoon, and then went out there and, you know, kind of, you know, started off shooting slowly. And as always, shooting on location, you do maybe 3 or 4 shots in the first 2 hours, and then the last 2 hours you do 20 shots, because then, you know, the light's getting better and on. I'm
Quick,
going, get it
quick,
ready, get it
let's
ready.
take a shot.
I'm like, the sun's going down. And Joey's going, all right, just chill out, man. That sun's going down.
We're nearly
We
there.
gotta shoot it.
We'll get it.
I can imagine.
So, yeah, and then obviously the challenge of shooting sunrise is you're prepping by 4 or 5 in the morning to be out on location. And it can be a very different kind of feeling. We had because we were in some ways although we didn't get the beautiful blue sky we wanted on the first day, it was actually a really beautiful experience because we kind of almost had this moodier gray, it was probably a bit more emotional kind of sense in the photos on the first day, and the second day it really came to life because the sun was pretty much out the whole day. So we had these beautiful pink hues in some parts of the sand, and then those epic kind of wider landscapes that we shot on and a lot on video where it literally looks like the models walking in the water. It was pretty cool.
So talking about the emotions, what kind of emotions and what kind of messages were you hoping to convey through the bold wardrobe and hair choices? Because obviously when you are working on a campaign, it's as much as the hairstyling plays a really big role, it's the total look, the location, the clothing, the model. So walk me through what kind of message you wanted to convey with the styling of the hair and also the wardrobe.
I always go full for our campaigns. The first impact, you go, I want people to buy into a beautiful image, whether it be whatever, the face or the model, but the emotion that you want people to buy into is like, that's really fun. Like I want people to go, oh, that's different, like this, and they may not even know what that is, but they go, oh, I really like this, or that sense of fun, and it's just, you want people to have those, little kind of highs of going, that's really cool and beautiful and fun, and so we always, tend to push into, I guess, brighter, more fun colors. How can we play off those beautiful brights? And for this was like, how can we play off those beautiful bright clothes and different colored props and things like that. And then kind of playing. How does that play into the hair texture? Do we go? Generally, we don't do bright, crazy colors, but how can we, on this, Mitch has got, quite beautiful kind of rounded, coily hair. So that almost became like a bit of a prop and a shape in itself. So it was really cool. Using those fun elements.
Well, I think as well, referencing before what you were saying, it is important to make each campaign look a little different from the last, and you want to make sure that you don't shoot quite similar things each campaign that you do, but it's always really important that everything is tied in back into our Australian heritage as well. So everything still looks quite Australian, and that's in with our clothing, with our styling, with the location that we shoot. Like I definitely think when you look at the campaign work that we do, not only does it immediately scream 11 Australia, but it also just screams Australian heritage too, which is great.
We are our brand, so it's not, we don't go, well, let's put on our 11 hats and make it kind of this way, and it has to be fun. It actually is us, and it is the brand, and that's the way we like to shoot. And don't get me wrong, I shoot a lot more extreme stuff or darker stuff, but commercially for hair, if I'm going to create something that I think is beautiful and progressive that people want to buy into, that's the stuff I shoot for 11 Australia. Really proud that we're able to kind of bring that Australian heritage in as part of the message, but also continually year after year, people always go, even before I saw a logo, I knew it was an 11 Australia image, which is really cool.
So the other thing I was going to say, I mean, as much as it sounds like we just rock up and we just shoot and we get these models, this is really curated and thought out. It's not just me and Andrew and Rach. There's Rob, there's G, there's Kylie. There's a whole team of people behind this whole thing who are thinking about. So we rock up there with an expectation of, we need to achieve this. We need social. We need images for the salons. We need images for consumer. So there's so many different points we need to tick. You know, early on in the piece when we used to rock up the shoots, we'd have a bit of fun and we'd shoot, and it was all cool. You know, we'd hear a lot of
Switch
brand.
the images.
Yeah. Now there is run sheets, there is times, there is things we need to hit. Don't get me wrong, we're having fun along the way, but there's so many points and so many things we need to tick now, part of this brand, because we are touching so many people, and we're touching so many people in different ways. So there's a whole team of people behind us that need to get their bit. You know, you've got social people who are following us everywhere. You're trying to do hair and you've got flies and shit all over you, and someone's trying to say, can you say this piece to camera? I'm like, yeah, man, can you get these flies off me first? And so there's a lot that goes on now in these campaigns. People say it's easy, but like Andrew was saying earlier, you know, we had these ideas going into the shoot. Mita's hair was going to be, you know, that beautiful silhouette, and then we're going to have her hair smoothed down, blowing and flowing. But you get there and the wind's just going and ripping across her face. So as a hairdresser, you go, geez, what do we do? How do we change this? And so then we've got to go into, cool, let's get her hair back. And then as a hairdresser, I've got to go, what can I do that's a bit different than just slick back? So we created this pony that had this sort of weave going through it. So you've got to think quick on the spot. And there's so many things that can, the obstacles that can throw your way and go against you. But that's where you've got to quick, and you've got to work with a good team to go, yeah, cool. You know, I'm looking at Andrew going, is this going to work? What do you reckon? And Andrew's like, cool, let's get it on this angle. Let's do this. Then you've got to look over at Rob and G, go, is this what we're thinking? Is this vibe going to work? Yeah, cool, tick. Okay, let's move. So as much as people think, oh, yeah, I want to go work on a shoot. I want to go work on this location. You can have my job. Go do it, because it is hard. It's not easy, because those 2 days, like I said, you are getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning. You're prepping, and you're going to be on location at 5:30 for the sun waiting to come up. You're going to be ready to go. You know, then you're shooting all day. You maybe have a little bit of a break between, 12 and 2, because the sun's probably not in the best location. And then you've got to shoot again till 8 o'clock at night. Then you've got to go back to your location, get some food into you, and then you've got to do a colour. And then you're going to bed at 12. It all looks good. You see it all, and you see the finished result. And even for us, you see the finished result. Wow, that was brilliant. But yeah, it is worth it. But it is hard yakka. And you got to think it gets emotional out there, because you haven't slept. You try to stay hydrated. You try and eat. Then you've got flies, and you've got to, people are going to go there, and there's, animals,
and
snakes,
screaming that the sun's coming down.
There's brown snakes everywhere up there. Like it's not. It's a you're in proper Australian kind of mallee flat dry area. There's a lot of wildlife there that can kill you.
Yeah, you're standing there, the model's standing there, you're doing her hair, and you start to look and go, hang on a sec, I'm sinking here. I'm sinking into this quicksand on my feet. And we're all wearing these gum boots, and you're thinking, when do I stop sinking? Hopefully I'll stop sinking before I can't come out. So it's safe. Don't get me wrong. It's not you're not going to die out there, but it has its challenging moments. You know what I mean? And it gets emotional out there. Sorry. The other thing is too, sometimes when you've got a whole team out there, it's emotional, and you're trying to do hair and the hair's not working. You start to doubt yourself and go, shit, everyone's staring at me. I've got to nail this. We're out here. There's, we've got a whole team. Joey, get your shit going.
You have that small window. That
pull a rabbit out of the hat.
Small window,
and pull a rabbit out of the hat and make this work. So,
exactly.
like I said, it gets emotional, gets hard, but we've worked together for so long now. Like Andrew said,
you almost don't need to speak to each other. You guys just can think what's in each other's minds, which is.
And don't get me wrong, it doesn't always work, but you can sort of push through it. And between the 4 or 5 or 6 of us, we can sort of create magic when it needs to happen.
Exactly. Well, I want to give the both of you credit, because I feel like we've had 11 Australia brand launch in 2011, and having the two of you still be so involved with the brand today through, multiple product launches, campaigns, global launches, to where you guys started to where you are now. I feel like when I speak about 11 Australia, and I talk about you two, I talk about how still so involved you both are. And I think it's really important, and what it keeps our brand ethos strong, you know, having you two still so involved in all the campaign work, the product development, the education, everything that is 11 Australia, you know, launching and shows around the world. You know, as Joey was saying, it can get quite emotional. You have some really pinch me moments. You do kind of butt heads sometimes, is what family do, and people that work alongside each other all the time. But I just, like I said, want to give you both credit, because the involvement you two still have to today is what keeps this brand so strong, as well as, you know, everyone else in the back end, our marketing team, our social team, wardrobe that we bring on, Andrew's amazing beautiful wife Kylie that comes and does makeup for these shoots. You know, it is such a well-oiled machine. Joey already very passionately spoke about the challenges that he had on that shoot, which is the flies, and Andrew did speak about, you know, that very small window of the lighting. So, you know, talking about anywhere that you go on location, when you are away from electricity, when you are away from a studio, when you do want to shoot at a specific time of the day, when you do think about the elements, especially in Australia, that we are challenged with, you know, as well as having an idea in your head, there are some challenges that do come your way, and it always works out because you two are so incredibly talented at what you do.
Yeah, it's not just us two though. You've got to remember
Exactly.
there's Rob,
Yeah.
there's G, there's Kylie. There's
Yeah.
a whole team of people. I mean, we're here
Exactly.
talking about this opportunity, but there's a whole band of people behind us who help us make this happen. Because to be honest, I'll put my hand up. If it was up to me and Andrew, we could maybe get a couple of things going, but to get that, pull that off on our own, I'm not too sure.
Talking about post shoot and talking about jumping into socials, and when we do release these campaigns, I know that music plays a really big part. So talk me through the kind of music that you pair up with the campaign, and why you choose it too.
I think, you know, and this is probably a question for Rob more than us.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's definitely, you know, and again, something we landed on very early in the establishment of the brand, you know, and it had a lot to do with, you know, I guess this Australian kind of sense of fun and almost kind of a bit of rebellion, but you know that there's a big chunk of, I don't know, youth and spirit in there as well. And Rob's, you know, a massive part of the engine of this brand.
Yeah.
And he really, you know, as much as Joey and I would like to take credit for everything, you know, the Rob really spends a lot of his time, and this is not only for our brand videos, but for our international shows, and basically, you know, everything that has a stamp of 11 on it, you know, with music, you know, Rob is going, you know, I want people to feel like this, and I want it to kind of be upbeat. And Rob has a great sense of, you know, not just when people are watching this on their phones, but when we tour internationally, you know, this video will be the launch of our big European shows or our big American shows. So Rob has a sense of, if I'm sitting in the back of an audience in, you know, Austin, Texas, you know, I want people to have their feet tapping and kind of heads nodding, going, this is cool. This is cool. And that's, you know, that's Rob's genius. And he does spend, you know, it's never ever just, this is a cool track, I'll chuck to this video. There's so much thought that goes into this relates to all of the ethos of this brand.
Rob would, yeah, he lives and breathes this brand. He knows what this, you know, and so do we. If you left the music to me, it'd be smooth FM.
Of course it would.
You know,
Barnsley, some Farnham.
that's what I listen to. I'm an old soul, you know. But and Rob, and so Rob will sort of, you know, he'd break it down and he'd select, you know, a nice selection, and he'd come to me and Andrew as well and go, what do you think of these? And you already know. And as soon as you hear the track, yeah, one of those 10, I'm like, that's my choice. And then, you know, Andrew said, that's my choice. And then Rob, and we've all selected the same song because we all know the 11 tune and the what it needs to represent. So we know that, but Rob's always listening to that style of music. That's his thing. So he'll select a bunch of tracks, but we always land on the same track. There's always one or two that we're like, this is it. This is a killer. You know what I mean? Exactly. And then when we are on stage and on show and doing these presentations, we know the music and it's always there in the back of your head and you're singing along. And, you know, it's funny when you're driving the car sometimes and one of the 11 tracks come on,
Oh,
you
yeah.
straight away think back all these memories. I'm Sweden, I'm Iceland,
I'm
I'm
back
here,
in stage.
there.
Yeah.
I remember this. Yeah. It's like that it just brings back all these moments and emotions of, you know, what you've been through over the last so many years. You know, you could release an album of the 11 tracks.
Oh yeah. We had this one song that I remember we used on a lot of our global shows, and it was our opening song. And I remember being at the salon. I think I said this to you, Joey. I remember being at the salon,
Yeah.
and the song would turn on, and I forgot that that's what we used. But every time the song came on, I got really nervous. And I was like, why am I always nervous when I hear this song? And it's because it's always the song that goes on before we all
Like
jump on stage
you're about to go.
around the
You're
world.
about to go on stage. It's that song. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is. It's awesome. What do you hope that people take away from this campaign, and how does it set the tone for what's to come with 11 Australia?
From a visual point of view, I want people to go, yeah, and I want, you know, and it's not just for this campaign, but every campaign to do. I want people to go, yes, 11, you know, are still kind of, you know, creating work at that level, you know, and not even creating work at that level. We're actually shooting, you know, for instance, Rach, we used to shoot one big campaign every 12 to 18 months. You know, now we're doing up to anywhere between 4 and 6 campaigns a year. So we're not just, I guess, keeping it that level, but doing it multiple times over per year. And I definitely want people, you know, whether it be in a salon or consumer seeing posters, is people going, you know, that's, even if they don't know what it is, going, oh, there's something really cool about that I want to buy into, you know, that's progressive, that's on trend, that feels different. You know, I guess with any imagery, you know, if you see any imagery again and again and again, you're going to get bored of it, you know, and you guys know, you know, and the audience, you know, when you look on Instagram, it's like, yeah, I've seen that before, you know, 100 million times. So there's something about kind of landing in like a beautiful new creative area where people are going, that's really cool, and I really like it, even if they don't understand why they like it. If it makes them happy, if it's those beautiful little touch points, that's my primary goal. But also, you know, after shooting for so many big corporate brands for a long time, where it was about perfection and like hairspraying the crap out of you know hair, and you know, for me, having, you know, beautiful organic reflective hair that moves in sun, that moves in the wind, that looks like hair, that behaves like hair, is, you know, and to capture that is, you know, one of the best things you could do for a hair brand. So for me, that's like an absolute privilege.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it's so exciting to now carry color in too into these campaign works, because I know you, like, we always talk about the hair texture, but we also know that sometimes texture doesn't show the way it needs to if it's the wrong choice of color too. So I think the great thing about moving forward with these campaigns is really showing how incredible 11 Australia colour is too, and how well that ties in with the product performance, with the wardrobe that we choose, the locations that we do. I feel like it's added an additional element into the campaign work as well.
It's become, I guess, part of our overall thinking moving forward. It's like, you know, if there's a campaign, you know, unless it's very product specific, but even then, you know, we now go, you know, we are a color brand, you know, so that becomes a big part of everything we do moving forward. And sometimes that may be, you know, we may have color specific shoots moving forward, where it's more about, I don't know, it might be 3 models with 3 different hair colors, or it might be even more educational and transformational, but it's a big part of our thinking, where in the past, even, you know, not that we shut out color models, but it was always like, well, if you had a model with a lot of color in her hair and we weren't a color brand, what were you actually kind of, you know, so we're almost kind of tiptoeing around the issue a bit. But now we can fully jump into going, you know, right, you know, if we've got a blonde model, can we kind of progress the color here, or what can we do with it? But yeah, it is definitely part of our ongoing thinking of how can we, you know, explore and explode that side of the 11 brand.
I think, you know, with where technology is going now, and AI being such a a big thing. I think that this was nice to talk to the both of you and getting real-time situations, working on real models. You know, there's no fluff and, you know, smoke and mirrors and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. It's just, you know, a whole team coming together to do really beautiful, beautiful work. And then just, you know, honing in on creating those beautiful images and creating amazing hairstyles that people can just be inspired about in our industry.
Yeah, exactly right. I
Look,
think, you know,
we're analog. We're analog.
We're analog.
We're old school. We do real hair, real
we're actually
locations.
very old school, and it's
We
funny
don't
you
use
mentioned that.
digital AI. We actually go out and brave the flies. We take on the heat, the sun, the winter climates. We do real hair, and that's who we're always going to be.
You know, almost for us, the more we see, I don't know, I guess engineering and kind of unreal stuff that's more appearing online almost makes us more determined to go, no, we do real hair on real models, and we shoot it the way real hair should look. You know, real hair, it doesn't come from a machine, it doesn't be spat out from, you know, an AI simulation. It's real hair on real models, and that's what we love working with this brand.
And it's important for us as a brand to show that they're our products working on real hair, color that performs on real hair, because it's easy to fake it out now in AI or whatever you want to do. But for us, we have to show the market that this stuff performs, it works, it delivers. And that's always been one of our main things, performance. So it needs to work.
Joey and Andy, once again, co-creative directors, I want to thank you both for sitting with me this morning and really diving into Lake Tyrrell. I appreciate you so much. And thank you to everybody watching this video, and we will hopefully be all together very soon.
The sun is shining, and today that sun is gonna shine on me, and it's gonna shine on you, my friend.